Good day everyone! For today's video, I will show and explain how I answered their quiz about using the Weka application in classifying of data as given to us by our professor, Dr. Edwin R. Arboleda. As an overview, I will show you the two test options that I used to answer our quiz. So, let's start! This is the question that we need to answer for this quiz. So, it says that
given the data set on two classes of cacao, find the features or combination of features wherein an accuracy of 90% above classification can be achieved. You are allowed to reduce the number of samples by picking only 200 samples or 150 samples per class, but not less than 100 as long as the required accuracy can be achieved. Use an appropriate fold which is 20% testing samples. Explain the number of folds used.
as I mentioned in my previous video, the first thing we must have before using the Weka app is our dataset. And for this quiz, it's already given. But then, I'll reduce the number of samples as well as the number of pictures. So here's the original dataset given to us by our professor, which have 250 samples for each class of cacao. But for my case, I'll only be choosing 125 samples for each class, meaning I'll have 125 samples of Trinitario cacao and 125 samples of Forastero cacao. In terms of features, I'll be focusing on the texture, color, area, perimeter, and dimension. So we have here hard and soft for the texture, brown, green, and red for the color, area, perimeter, then length and width for the dimension. It's also needed to find the appropriate number of folds, which is equivalent to 20% testing samples. So first, let's find the 20% of our sample, and the 20% of 125 is 25, meaning the value of our testing samples is 25. Fold means the number of partitions you'll make for your dataset, and the last partition of the dataset is equivalent to the number of testing samples. Thus, since we have 125 total samples, we'll just find the number of folds that will give a result of 25. So, the value of our fold is 5. That means, for our training set, we have 4 sets consisting of 25 samples each, having a total of 100 samples. Hence, we'll be having a total of 125 samples divided into 2 sets, 100 for training and 25 for testing using 5 folds. Now, since we already finalized our dataset, we will proceed to the Weka application. As I tackled in my previous video, our dataset must be saved in a CSV file format. If you don't know yet how to do that, you can check my previous video about downloading, installing, and using the Weka application. So in Weka, let's go to Explorer. Then, open the CSV file of our dataset. For our first trial, we will be using the cross-validation test option. So let's input 5 as our cross-validation fold value before we start classifying. and upon doing some trials, under this test option, the logistic and multi-class classifier has the highest percentage, which both yield an output of 88%. However, we did not meet the required result given in the problem. So let's try using another test option, which is use training set. For this test option, we will not be having folds for there is no need to divide our sample, because in here, what we'll be using is the entire data set. Meaning, we will use the entire data set for training, and that's what we'll also be using for testing. So, let's start classifying. As you can notice, there are some classifiers which yield 100% accuracy rate. At kung iisipin, parang ang imposible naman mangyari nun in real life, diba? That's because results using this test option is considered to be misleading based on some references that I read. Take this for example. That's why I'll not choose the classifier that produce 100% result. Rather, I'll be choosing the multi-layer perceptron classifier, which gave an accuracy rate of 94.4%. I'm not saying that it's the right one, but for me, it's the one that's more logical and acceptable. So that's all for our discussion, and I hope you learned something from this video. This is Angela Rodriguez, and thank you for watching.